You're watching Lansdowne Roar, the voice of the fans. I'm Martin Prendergast, joined by Conor McAvoy as we catch up on the latest news in Irish football. If you haven't subscribed already to the show, please do so and check us out on all our social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, and of course, you can check out the latest articles on lansdowneroad.ie. Conor, how are you getting on? You well?
I'm the best. I'm good. I'm a bit frustrated here with my wife. I don't know what's wrong with today. I was doing my head in. Anyway, but other than that, I'm good. It's another week of madness going past in Irish football, and more people grabbing the headlines as per usual. The same old suspects are back again, but I'm good. How are you doing?
Yeah, all good, thanks. We were thinking this would be a quiet time in Irish football, but obviously the lads have caught up. You can also catch up with the latest shows, of course, where Conor and Dave went back and looked at, Duffer's exit from the League of Ireland. All the latest League of Ireland action as well was all been analysed. Some fantastic insight from Dave, especially on the back of Damien Duff leaving Shells, where he predicted that Joey O'Brien would come in there, set them running, bring them down to Waterford, and give them a right hammering. I think it was, wasn't it? Is what he predicted, and it turned out to be a 2-2 draw. So, some questionable opinion on this pod as always. Yeah, but we nearly set Conor off there on a rant, but I'm gonna ease him into this. This is a bit of a lunchtime catch up actually, where we're recording this because we wanted to give you the latest news of Irish football, and it's been announced today, finally, because we've been inundated with requests for, do you know when it's going to be played? But we do now know, at last, long last, we know that Ireland are going to be taking on Portugal, and it's in Lisbon at last. So how do you pronounce the stadium? The Jose Alvalde Stadium?
I don't know. I don't have it in front of me, to be honest. I don't know. You can tell me, Martin. You're the natural English-born speaker here. It's not my native tongue.
Yeah, we must get must get a little bit more of these subtitles up for when you're on. Actually, Conor, a few people have marked that out to me. But look, yeah, no,
because you're all your English friends. Oh, friends.
That's right. Yeah, 7:45 kickoff, and it's confirmed as Estadio Jose Alvalade, and that's in Lisbon, of course. So ticket information will come out from the FAI soon. 55,000 capacity stadium, I think that one. So hopeful that anybody wanting to travel over to support the boys in green on the 11th of October, 2025, of course. That's
as we make it 9 points. As we make it 9 points.
Make it 9 points as well, yeah. So looking forward to it already. A lot of people booking. You've got to remember as well, we've got the home game following it on the Tuesday against Armenia at home. So do bear that in mind when you are traveling, that you're not having an extended holiday in Lisbon. But yeah, at least that's been confirmed now, and it's time to get a little bit excited on that. So that's some latest kind of ticket news as well. You can, of course, go on to Ticketmaster in Ireland to avail of the triple pack. That's the World Cup qualification campaign at home. All the free home games. The FAI still selling tickets for that now. So do get behind the boys in green. We'll be at all those games, won't we, Conor? Home and away. Yep. We'll be there watching Ireland. So
Dave said he's not going though.
Dave said he's not going. Where?
No, he's to any of those games. You're taking his place in the press.
Listen, if I want to get in that press box, I'll get in that press box. Don't you worry about me. But no, in all seriousness, we're looking forward to these games coming up now, as Ireland will be qualifying for the World Cup in America next year. So this time next year, we'll be in America. Right. With lots of transfer news to come up, of course. And before we come on to some other kind of some news stories, I suppose, we're going to be covering today, and getting Conor off on a rant, of course, because he's really angry about one particular former Ireland international manager. We just want to wish the very best of luck to the Irish women who are in action at 2 a.m. in the morning, as time of recording, when they take on the USA. Bit of injury news there. Megan Campbell and Denise O'Sullivan are both out of the game, which is a shame. But looking forward to probably catching up with that one. It's a 2 a.m. game. I'm looking forward especially to Ellen Malloy, who was a former guest of the pod. One of my favourite players for Ireland. Very interesting journey she's had recently. A few, troubles as well. It didn't really work out for her when she moved over to Sheffield United, although she scored some amazing goals there. But yeah, she's on the return now from injury and absolutely flying with Wexford. So look, I'm delighted that she got back into the squad. So I want to wish her the very best.
Martin,
Yep.
Dave said he's staying up and he's doing a watch along for it actually at 2:00. Because you know he
I
doesn't
bet
go,
he
you
is.
know he says he's going to bed he said he's going to bed at 12:00 and at 2:30 in the morning you get a voice note from Dave on this big
Yeah.
rant about something.
Exactly.
So he'll be
Yeah.
up at 2:00. So Dave, if you're watching, we're expecting you to have a watch along at 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah, we'll post Dave's number on Twitter, and you can all ring him and message him and watch it along with him. But that's going to be an interesting game. The Ireland women's team in action there because they're obviously taking on Emma Hayes' USA. So, yep, disappointed that obviously Ireland weren't in the Euros, didn't qualify. But yeah, it's a start of a new kind of campaign in a way. No Katie McCabe out there; she's being rested, and Carla Ward is hopefully going to be a bit experimental with her squad. So wishing them the very best of luck. And talking of Ireland managers, this is a man that set off Conor, or will set off Conor, on a massive rant now because Martin O'Neill are probably not the most popular Ireland manager ever, I think, in a sense. But he is always on TalkSport now. He's on with Jordan and Jim White as well, of course. But he doesn't endear himself to the Ireland fans, and he's been chatting again. I've got some quotes that I will do, but here's a bit of an image view for the viewing public there who are watching along. And he's basically talking about Keith Andrews, the speculation, although it's still to be confirmed, that Keith Andrews will be appointed as the manager of Brentford. And that's obviously soon to be confirmed, of course. But he said he will realise what management is all about. And Martin O'Neill on vitriolic critic Keith Andrews. So we will come on and read a few quotes from that of this interview where he did speak on Sky, but no, on TalkSport, sorry. And it was very, it is quite interesting in a way. You know, Martin O'Neill, quite a controversial character, very opinionated, of course. He's on the gravy train of TalkSport. What is your initial thoughts before we come on and talk about what he actually says? What is your view, Conor?
Just get him off social media, get him away from TV, radio, wherever he is. Never let Martin O'Neill on anything ever again. He is top one people, most annoying people to ever come into Irish football. Like, people think James McLean winds people up. Martin O'Neill is just a bluffer. It's plain and simple, he's a bluffer, Martin. Just get him gone. I'm sick of everything that comes out of his mouth because it's absolute nonsense what comes out of his mouth. But yeah, I'm sick of him. Tell him, just someone shut him up and just put him on some channel that we can't see him anymore. Throw him on Lansdowne Road and I'll have a go, or Roar, and I'll have a go at him. But yeah, Martin, you can read the quotes.
Right, yeah. So Martin O'Neill, he was on TalkSport. Thanks for that, Conor. But you know, this is like, I think this where my initial thoughts on this before we come on read on the quotes on this, because I'm just thinking, obviously, lots of speculation. Keith Andrews, fantastic opportunity for him. I know you spoke on the last show with Dave, which you can obviously get in our archives, and do go back and listen to that, of course. But you spoke about Keith Andrews and what a massive opportunity it is for Keith Andrews, who came through the FAI coaching pathway as well. He was an assistant with Stephen Kenny. We've had him at Risk London as a guest and spoke really, really well. Fantastic insight into coaching. And, you know, I could see how popular he was around like the team hotel and with the lads. You know, it didn't work out with Kenny. We know that. But I think he brought a lot to it. And I've heard him speak as well. I thought he was a very good pundit. I know Dave shared that opinion on the last show as well. Real good knowledge base, I think, especially of championship players. And what I've always said about Keith Andrews that I liked was he was always promoting Irish footballs and never really negative about them. You know, he said that one of the first things they did, him and Stephen Kenny, when they came to the Ireland camp was, you know, they brought in lots of players, as we know, fast track players, but also lads who weren't getting game time, brought them in because it was kind of reminding their clubs that these lads are very, very talented. You bought them, you've been developing them. Don't just let them rot in the reserves. Give them opportunities, and that's what he tried to do with Ireland. Now we know that they followed on from Martin O'Neill and Roy Keane. We know that, and Martin O'Neill, well, Roy Keane especially. You know, he called Keith Andrews an absolute bullshitter. Basically, he's met a lot of bluffers and bullshitters in football, and he's one of them. Again, you'd imagine there's some massive falling out there in the background that leads to that kind of assumption or perception of him. But O'Neill as well, I think sometimes Keane and O'Neill, they really do hold grudges. And this is what O'Neill had to say. While O'Neill's this is just kind of a bit of a summary to lead into it. While O'Neill was in charge of Ireland, Andrews was an outspoken critic of O'Neill and his assistant Roy Keane in a spell when they reached the Euro finals and beat Italy. So that's back in 2016. He has been their set piece coach, said O'Neill of Andrews. The irony is, when I was manager of the Republic of Ireland, he was a particularly vitriolic critic of mine at the time. He was really dead against me trying to use set pieces to try to win games. The irony is, he becomes set piece coach at Brentford. Really, I say good luck to him. Brentford have decided, if it is the case, that he should get it. He added, I hope he does get it, because then he will realise what management is all about. It's not as easy to be sitting in the pundit's chair, sitting to criticise someone who, in all honesty, had a much better career than he had. He was dealing at the bottom end of it when I was winning the European Cup. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be criticising everyone to their own, but it will be in a different ball game now. It wasn't all swipes, however, as he did throw some praise in Andrew's direction. In terms of some of the decisions he's made, I think he's done very well as a set-piece coach. A lot of credit has gone to him for the fast starts Brentford have made in games. He is stepping into an unknown. It's all very well when you can be a friend of the players. You can have the set pieces. You can be the coach sitting there in the room. It's a different ball game when you're making the big decisions. And that is something I just got to come in before I go to you on that, Conor, because, you know, I think we kind of get caught up in labels. You know, when you have a coach or backroom coaching staff, you know, they are designated jobs and stuff, but really they are a coaching group. And I know some would have specific jobs, but he wasn't just a set piece coach, isn't he? Like it's like saying Anthony Barry, like we know that he came in and he had tremendous success with Ireland set pieces, throw-ons and things. But he was kind of labelled as that, but he was a lot more than that, Anthony Barry. And like you are the backroom coaching staff. And I think it's a bit kind of insulting, really, just to say he's a set piece coach. I know clubs will have that as a label because maybe they have to have those kind of labels because of, you know, perhaps FA rules or things like that, that you can have designated members of staff, specialist kind of goalkeeper coach, you know, as on the bench and things. Maybe that's why we have these labels, because Anthony Barry was a lot more than that with Ireland, and we've seen now he's obviously gone on to bigger and better things. And Keith Andrews as well. I know he came in as a set piece coach, but really he came as a coach there. You're not that specialist in those kind of things, and they're not really needed, I don't think. So, you know, I know there's a lot of negativity, perhaps even that Andrews is getting a senior job there in the Premier League, his first managerial job, but it's not on the back of being a set piece coach. That's what I'm trying to say. What's your view on that?
Yeah, even look at the Arsenal fella who made all the highlights last season, Martin, who everyone was showing on TV for his set pieces. He's gone and got the Parma job, so he clearly was doing a lot more than set pieces. But yeah, you're spot on. Andrews clearly was doing so much more behind the scenes than just set pieces. Martin O'Neill is a complete another bluffer. I'm sick of him. Him saying that Keith Andrews was slating him for using set pieces to score goals. That was not what he was slating for. Of course, Martin O'Neill has to twist his words, and Keith Andrews was slating him because the set piece tactics that he's using were crap, and they were crap as always, because Martin O'Neill is a dinosaur manager. And then he's coming on saying that because he's slating Keith Andrews' career, basically saying because you're an average player and Martin O'Neill won European Cups, it means that your opinion doesn't really matter, which we've seen a lot of the top ever players or managers ever managing football were not top players, and there were miles better managers than Martin O'Neill. And he's just a bluffer, Martin. I've never seen a more bitter man in football. He basically said there, I know they're saying that, he's somewhat praised Andrews. He didn't praise him at all. He said he wants him to get the job because he wants him to field, because he's expecting Keith Andrews to go in there and field. And I can't wait Keith Andrews to go in there and surprise everyone and shut that man up, because I am sick to death of Martin O'Neill thinking he's on this high horse. He's better than everyone else. Even when he spoke about the Declan Rice situation in the past, saying, Declan Rice wouldn't have played for Ireland if he would have picked. Like, what is he on about? When he brought him into that training camp in Cork, and if he would have put him in that match day squad when he wasn't in the squad, and he would have brought him off the bench that day, Declan Rice would never have said no. He only wanted to play for Ireland at the time. It was never even in his mind about playing for England. So it was just Martin O'Neill being Martin O'Neill. Same with the Michael Obafemi situation, telling someone that's in the squad, I don't think you want to play for Ireland. What type of nonsense is that? Like, he is an absolute bluffer. And when Roy Keane talks about bluffers of the highest orders, he needs to look in the mirror, look at himself and look at Martin O'Neill, because the two of them sent Irish football back so far. By one decision, by not bringing one player into the squad, it's probably cost us at least 2 tournaments in the last 4, I would say. Martin O'Neill, there's a reason why he's been stuck on TalkSport, basically is turned to talk shite the last couple of years, Martin. It's just people talking absolute shite, trying to get clicks, trying to get headlines. I don't even think Martin O'Neill is trying to get clicks or trying to get headlines. I just think he's so delusional in his own mind, his own bitter head, that he has something against him. Like he holds a grudge against the Irish media just because he's from Derry. He thinks because he's from Derry and he's from the north, people are holding it against him, which is more nonsense. So yeah, I just think that man, we need to get a petition, Martin, the Lansdowne Road petition. Get Martin O'Neill off all media channels, and if he comes on here and he can talk to us about it, then we can let him back on. But he's just a bluffer.
Right, and breathe, Conor. Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. You know, I think I get Keane's bitterness and kind of sniping comments and stuff. I think that's with where he is with Keith Andrews is obviously kind of management. You know, seeing him go into midfield as well, and thinking, geez, you're half the player I was. I think, and then seeing him punditry, and he's taken offence for some of these comments and stuff. You know, O'Neill though, just it's so old hat. This, you know, European Cup reference all the time, like comparing himself.
Did you know he won a European Cup? Did you?
I think
it's a bit like Carl Fratch doing when he says, "Oh, I sold out Wembley. I sold out Wembley." Shut up, you clown.
It is. It's not relevant anymore. You know, there's players who've won European Cups who did nothing, and were just lucky enough. I mean, I'm not saying that about Martin O'Neill, but you know, he just has that. I think he's just a smart ass, to be honest. I find it funny at times, but with here, I just think it's just nasty. Basically, it's quite bitter and just wanting someone to fail, as we said. And I think where I am as an Irish football supporter, and even a supporter of you know, even the coaching pathway for former Irish players or coaches that can make an impact in the Irish game. You know, I want him to be successful, Keith Andrews. I want him to do well because it reflects well on Irish football in the background and everything. I don't want him to fail just because, oh, we told you so. It's so much easier, isn't it, than when you're talking about football than actually being in the hot seat. So it's just very bitter and sad. And look, your petition won't go very far. I mean, he's not on Irish football you know, shows or anything like that. You know, he's always taken the BBC or Sky's money to be a pundit. And that's his kind of bread and butter and things with that. But I just, it saddens me really, because I think O'Neill should be above that. But I think it is just to be relevant as well. And yeah, he never accepts any wrongdoing with Irish football. I mean, look, when he first had his book that came out probably about 18 months ago now, and I actually made the point on the show because I got a copy of it, and I was talking on the show about the book and said, oh, he's only given one chapter to Ireland. But actually, I hadn't read the book properly. I was just going through like the chapters, to be fair to myself on this. And someone said, like, you know, well, no, he's actually just given a chapter to every club or whatever he has. He's not. But it wasn't very insightful or anything. I mean, he's a fantastically intelligent man, Martin O'Neill, and I just think he should be above that. I think he and Roy Keane are just caught up in that old school mentality of, I mean, I find Keane good on the overlap, and look, Dave jokes and says, oh, Keane could do anything and you'll defend him. I do criticize Keane, but I think I know kind of Keane's kind of mannerisms, and when the little cheeky kind of smile comes out, it's him taking the piss and having a bit of a laugh. I think Martin O'Neill was just a bit of a smart ass completely, and always has to be right. And tries to be funny. He tries to be funny, but it doesn't come across as funny.
But the problem with Martin is because he knows he's a smart person, and he knows deep down he's fucked up on a few things in Irish football that he won't admit. So he just tries to use his intelligence to spin it in every which way that he can. Like with the Declan Rice thing, it's sort of way it's like, how can I flip it in a way that makes it seem like I'll just instantly say he never wanted to play for Ireland. He never wanted to play for Ireland. It would never happen. So then you're kind of shutting it down sort of, rather than saying, well, if I would have done this differently and this, he'll never be honest. He'll just lie to spin it in his way, because he's, as you said, he's a smart arse. He's a bluffer. He never thought of the greater good of Irish football when he was in charge. He just always thought of, how could I benefit Martin O'Neill? How could I benefit at least with Roy Keane? You can tell with Roy Keane, even with Roy Keane, you can tell being Irish is the most important thing to him. I know Martin O'Neill says it is to him, but sometimes I feel like his personal ego means more than anything else to that man.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Martin O'Neill spins questions as well, and he always gets his own little bits in. So, like, if you're asking about, I was listening to Talksport the other day when he was on it, and he was on about Leicester, and he was saying, you know, Leicester were a very successful team back in the day. I mean, they won a couple of League Cups. Now he knows that because he won them, but he spins it in such a way that he's talking about it, and you know, he just he's obviously talking about Keith Andrews here because it is more high profile. I mean, one thing I'd say fantastically great for Keith Andrews and for Irish football as well, that Keith Andrews is an opportunity now, hopefully, to be a Premier League manager. And we've never had an Irish Premier League manager before, like in recent years, I'm saying. So especially on the back of his kind of journey. Well, no, Roy, I know Roy. All right.
Well, no.
I'm on a nil.
Is Kieran McKenna not Irish? Is Brendan Rodgers not Irish?
All right.
Are they not Irish? You're talking into Mick Delaney. You're saying people aren't Irish just because they're from the north.
In recent years, I'm saying, and with the journey,
Kieran McKenna was an Irish manager last season.
I'm saying in recent years, with that journey that he's had, this is his first job in football, as a manager role. No one's had that, have they? Not having to really.
Has anyone ever done the grass? When's the last time? Has there ever been a manager in recent years, anyway, that I can remember in the Premier League that took their very, very, very first job of any aspect in men's senior football in the Premier League?
There will have been. Like interim managers will get the job, and that would be their first job.
But like even when Solskjaer got the United job, he was doing Molda, and stuff like. I think a lot of these players would have been somewhere else first. I'm trying to think. Has there ever been their very first job?
First managerial job. It would. Yeah. I was trying to think about this, and I was thinking about did I don't know if it was in the Championship or Premier League. Terry Connors when he replaced Mick McCarthy. Yeah, then he got the job. Did he not get the job full time then?
He might have. I know he done interim, didn't he? Yeah, when they got relegated, wasn't it? When they got relegated, but had he not done a job before that?
He might have. Yeah, he might have. I suppose. But look, I think O'Neill. Yeah, look, it is what it is with him, and I hope Keith Andrews gets the job and does really well because I think obviously Queeveen's gone there as well. We've got Nathan Collins there. I'm hoping even based on what I said earlier, Keith Andrews promoting Irish footballers. He's going to give opportunities to some of them and perhaps bring people in as well. And hopefully with his connections, that's going to help as well. So, best of luck to him when that is announced, of course. We're going to come on to chatting about a few players who have been on the move or some kind of news in the transfer window. So this is where Conor comes into his very own. And we're going to talk about probably the most high profile of these players that we're going to go through is Dara O'Shea. There he is, sporting a wonderful Ipswich Town shirt, sponsored by Ed Sheeran. He signed, is it a 4-year deal?
5-year deal.
5-year, wow. So we've relegated Ipswich Town.
Mad, isn't it, Martin? It's
No, I think it's a great deal for him. Fantastic. I'm going to just say 2 words on this release clause. He must have a buyout on that. Like the lap pad. If he does really, really well, he'll have a transfer fee that he can go. Now, I know he's signed the deal. I think fair play. He's securing his future doing that. I would expect I don't know, has he been captain or who even is the captain of Ipswich, but I think
he's got massive, at the moment.
Right. He's got massive leadership qualities as well, Dara O'Shea. I think that's a very, very good decision by him and his agent, tying him into 5 years and hopefully releases if performances come. I'm quite happy with it. Now, I know, Conor, we spoke off air and you said the question really for the Raw faithful listening, do they think it's a good deal? And do you think that Dara O'Shea taking a 5-year deal in a championship team, is he going to be considered as a member of the squad that's going to go to the World Cup in 2026? Is he risking that? Now, what's your view on that? I've probably got a different view.
That's my biggest problem, Martin, is the fact he's done it heading into World Cup year. We're going to have Omobamidele playing week in, week out in League One. We're going to have Jacob Ryan hopefully playing centre-half every week for Everton next season. Aaron Cashin is liable to go start every game for Brighton next season, or I've seen links in loan. He could go to the Bundesliga on loan. And that's 3 centre-halves that we playing in top 5 leagues across Europe. And Selmo Garcia McNulty has been heavily linked to going to La Liga clubs. So that's another centre-half playing in top 5 league. And they make such a big deal about having lads playing in top 5 leagues. Yeah, it's great, secure and financial future, which I can't blame Dara O'Shea. I'm sure he's on great money. The release clause thing, I don't know if I agree with Martin. I think Ipswich would have had him at a sort of thing that the lap had. If they got relegated, there would have been a release clause, and they're probably think tie him down as soon as possible, so that release clause can't be there. And if a club ever does come in, they're not going to pay whatever. The release clause probably would have been 7 or 8 million, something cheap, or 10 million that he could have moved on. But no, I think it's a very risky move. you can understand where he's coming from. 5 years, he's probably their highest paid player now on a lot of money. He definitely had said the sort of thing, if we don't get promoted this season, you can move on after that. But he's not a baby in football terms anymore. He's 26. He's competing in our most competitive spot to break into the team as centre half. Collins is nailed on there as our kind of captain / centre half there. And then the other centre half position, or if you want to play one of them at right back and then they go into that 3 at the back, I do worry for Dara Shea's long-term future in this Irish start. And he'll definitely be in the squad no matter what. But whether he's a starter or not, I know he's done very well for Ireland. I think he's a very good player. It's just so frustrating. The fact is, he's now his position is now really up for grabs, Martin. I wouldn't have said it was up for grabs if he got to move back to the Premier League, but unless Ipswich are being smart and they know he's going to leave this summer, so we'll get him on a contract, so there's no relegation release clause there anymore, and he can go somewhere else. But it's quite frustrating, I think.
I'd be of the opposite view of that. I think he's secure in his future. Fair play. I think he's confident in himself that he has played. He was one of our best players, I think, over the last camp, especially. Really set the tone in the first game against Senegal. I think he's confident in that he's in that Ireland team and scored on it. I think he's very versatile along that back 4 or 5. Yes, we're strong there, but Omar Bamadeli's never fit. So Collins is nailed on. We know. Jake O'Brien, we know the flexibility he has. Dara Shea can cover left side as well, and did so before. So I think I think as well, the other thing about him playing at that level, he's going to play week in, week out. I mean, Nathan Collins, for example, if he went to Spurs and it doesn't start off well, then he's not going to be playing all the time. It's a little bit like Jake O'Brien last year. Whereas Dara Shea will be starting week in, week out at a level, getting ready for that World Cup. And it's only 9 months away.
But Collins is our captain, though. You have to think of that, because Coleman, he's probably never going to be a starter for Ireland again. Even though if he's in squads, he would be captain when he's on the pitch. Or me and on-field captain now is Collins, so he'll be starting no matter what. But the reality is, Martin, I know you're saying about left centre half, but we've 2 very good young left centre halves in Cashin and McNulty. That 99% of modern managers, if you have a left-footed centre half who's good enough to come into the team, they'll bring them into the team, because it just adds so much more ability on the ball if you can have someone left-footed playing in that role. And especially if they're playing in top 5 leagues across Europe, it's very hard for them lads to be like, no, you're not going to be a starter. Even though Shea's done nothing on the pitch to affect his chances playing for Ireland, it just is quite frustrating that he's like going where we think he's a level above at this stage. I think he's shown last year with Ipswich, Martin, that especially when he won the club's player of the season, that he's not just a relegation Premier League centre-half level. He can easily go play for a mid-team level team in the Premier League. Like, he could go play for Brentford and be Collins' partner, or replace Collins, and maybe with Keith Andrews there. Maybe I don't think it's impossible if a club came in this summer, they could go and prize Dara Shea away from Ipswich, because they have him on a 5-year contract now. They could demand a very good fee from him, but it's just quite frustrating. There's a level. That's what I'd say, Martin, is there's a level of doubt there now about his position in the Ireland starting 11 when there wouldn't have been, when there shouldn't be.
All right. No, I get your point on it. I don't agree. You're wrong. Right. Coming on to some other. This is where Rep Tracker comes into his own now, and a bit of League 1 or League 2. Is it? What's 2?
Trois, is it? I don't know. I didn't do French at school. I did German. It's Trois, is it? I don't know what it's.
We have John Joe and Ika Arazi there.
Ika
Arazi. So French League, what's happening with these 2 guys?
It looks like, despite being relegated, they're not being relegated, which is great news for us, Martin, isn't it? Especially probably for John Patrick, because he's more of to be in the senior squad now, because if they got relegated and they're playing in the second year, it's going to be very hard for him probably to come back into the squad. But because Lyon are in massive financial difficulties, I think they're 500 million in debt, they owe a load of money. They've been relegated to the second tier in France, and they're going to be playing in the Europa League next season whilst being in the second tier, which means that someone that was relegated is going to stay up. And because Stade Rennes lost in the playoff final, they were obviously whatever way they do, seeding or whatever way that goes off. They get to stay in Ligue 1 next season, and it means that John Patrick and Ike Razi, I don't know what Ike's situation will be this summer, whether he'll go somewhere else or he'll stay there. But that's a huge positive, I think, for Martin, because I know Dave had renewed his Ligue 1 pass by accident, and there was going to be it looked like there was going to be no Irish players playing in that league next season, but now there's going to be at least 3 by the looks of. I know Leon can appeal this, but from all the things I've seen and heard, it seems almost impossible that Leon will get this overturned because there is so much money in debt. But yeah, it's a positive for us, Martin. It's a big positive. John Patrick, he played 2 minutes against Luxembourg. Everyone was happy with that, to be fair. And hopefully he can build on next season. And because he was kind of I wouldn't say a bit part player for them in the second half last season. He was just so in and out of the team. 1 week he'd start, a couple of weeks on the bench, back in, back out. So yeah, hopefully he can become a regular starter for every game next season.
Okay. So yeah, we won't have to. Dave doesn't have to throw the fire stick in the bin yet with his dodgy box. No. He likes the dodgy box. All right, and on to another player then. This is Sean Grehan. Welcome to the League Two champions. Right, Connor. Tell me about Sean. Where does he play?
You tell me where he plays.
I don't know. This is why I'm asking you. You're rep
no, you're meant to know about the League of Ireland. But anyway, Sean had an outstanding loan spell at Bows this season. He had a tricky one a couple of years ago at Carlisle where he went in and they just put him on the bench and just didn't play him at all. And he's been at Palace the last, I think it was three seasons, and went out on loan to Bows. Was one of the best centre halves in the League of Ireland this season. Obviously, got a lot of interest from English clubs. A lot of people would have thought maybe he would have went out on loan again this season, but obviously Doncaster have come in, probably offered Palace good money, would have offered Sean himself a very good wage, and he's now back playing in England, be with them in League One next season. A good step up from I wouldn't know if there's much difference in Doncaster and Bows in terms of standard, but it'll be a very competitive league. Playing in England where he'll want to be for his long-term future. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up being one of the leadership group or being a captain even for the Ireland or 21s this season, this campaign, because he was heavily a part of the last group. Brilliant centre half, excellent on the ball, not that tall, but still very good near, very dominant. And I think it's a good move for him to work his way back up in England, because I'd say his confidence was affected with that Carlisle loan. Bowes helped bring back what the top talent that he is, really. He was under 19 player of the year for Ireland 4 years ago. So yeah, a real talent, a good move for him. He'll be on a good wage. He'll be at a good club that if he can do well, there'll be plenty of interest, because I'm sure there was plenty even championship clubs, top of League One clubs that would have been interested in him. So hopefully he can build on that this season.
And that's where we have Rep Tracker here, giving us all the information when these young players are moving, because it's very difficult for some of us Ireland fans who are too lazy to bother looking to see who they play for, where they're from, and what they're going to do. But look, I'm really interested to see some of these young players move in as well, because football's just so fast. I mean, look, how old did you say Dara O'Shea was now? 26. O'Dowd as well, 29, and speculation.
Of course, you mentioned him. Of course, I mentioned him,
didn't I? Well, you did send me the other day that linked with QPR, I think you said. But lots of transfer speculation. But and these lads, I don't begrudge any of them. 2 points on this really. Dara O'Shea, 5-year deal, brilliant. Last long-term security for him and his family, fair play. But also the key point, like the likes of Sean Grehan, who went to Carlisle, as you said, and even as I said earlier, Ella Malloy, it didn't work out initially when she went over to Sheffield United, but she's come back to a kind of not a safety net in a sense, but still an incredibly talented player. Some of these players just need time. And I think that's sometimes we often forget. I'm not going to go on about it again, but like we forget how young Evan Ferguson is, and he's a full-time senior pro in the Premier League, like the most high-profile league in the world. And the pressure that and everything that comes with that, we just forget that. I mean, how many of us at the age of 20 would have been able to deal with that? So, we do have to give some of these lads time. So fair play to Sean Grehan going back and now seeking his opportunity again. And I wish him all the best, of course. And a young player now who's actually sinking in lovely here with my Evan Ferguson at Brighton is that they've signed a young 18-year-old goalkeeper from Treaty. This is Michael Dyke. How good is this lad? And, this is another up-and-coming Irish goalkeeper. Conor.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
You tell me. Yeah. Now, great to see another young goalkeeper. Which
I'd be questioning the clobber there, though. Yeah. What's that about? I'm not sure about that outfit.
Clobber. What an Englishman you
are.
The
kids. Down with the kids. Not down with the youth. Or was it the gear?
Not in his Brighton tracksuit. That's what you want him in. But yeah, great move from Michael Dyke. he 3D United. He was at Ireland. He made his Ireland under-19 debut this year. Very impressive, according to a lot of people that will see him regularly. Played a lot for 3D last season in the first division. Done very, very well. It looked like he was nailed on to go to Birmingham this summer. Obviously, Brighton have swooped in last minute, or I don't know what you say last minute, but have swooped in, took a signature, brought him to the Amex. Another top goalkeeper talent, which we seem to just produce year on, year out. As just another goalkeeper comes through. He's meant to be very good with the ball at his feet, brilliant in the air. Obviously, a very good shot stopper. Brighton have seemed to have got another real Irish talent on their hands. Like, they seem to always snatch up every good Irish young player at this stage. But yeah, a great move for Michael. Great move for probably 3D United as well. That if he can go on and get sold for good money, they'll get a decent percentage of that. And another goalkeeper who will be going to a big club in England, and he's probably achieving every dream he ever wanted to achieve, really. Martin was just going to England and getting to a Premier League club and giving himself a chance to make it in England, which is a massive achievement.
Would he be in the same year as Aaron Maguire then? Is it Spurs? That same
He's
team?
younger than Aaron Maguire.
Younger.
He's
yeah. Few years, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, I was just thinking that now. But yeah, look, we are blessed with goalkeepers, aren't we? They just seem to come through.
Yeah.
And yeah, look, high profile going to Brighton. Fantastic. So best of luck to him. And then the last one we're going to just chat about is Dara Costello. This is a striker. And he's just signed for Wigan Athletic. So what's the view on him then? Like, you know, a nice little photo of him there.
Actually, just on a goalkeeper as well. Sorry, I forgot that. Killian Cahill gone from Brighton to Leyton Orient, goalkeeper as well. So Josh Keeley gone out the door this summer, and they've brought another Irishman in to replace him, which is quite interesting. And he's gone from Brighton actually as well. So that's a good move for him. Hopefully he can break in and become a regular. But on Dara Costello, had 2 brilliant loan spells last season. He spent quite a bit out on loan actually over the last couple of years. He broke through at Burnley when Company was in charge at the start of Company's first spell, I think it was. And he was playing out in the wing, and he actually was doing very well for them. But then I think when they got lads back from injuries and stuff, the more experienced heads came back into the team. He was on loan in Dundee in Scotland last season for a while. And then this season, he, at the start of the first 6 months, he was at Accrington Stanley, doing excellently well there. He was doing so well that Burnley recalled him to then send him out to League One, where he's at Northampton. Done very well at Northampton. And between the 2 loan spells, he scored 11 goals. Can play up front, can play on the wing. Mainly has always been a winger, really, coming through, or playing at wing back even. And then this season, he's kind of played a lot more as you'd say a number 9, or more of a attacker wise than what he's before. And he's a very good finisher. He's lightning quick. He's a player that's probably needed to step up to a good League One club. He should do very, very well at Wigan. I've seen he signed a 3-year deal with the option for another year, which is good for his long-term future. He's a type of player Wigan.
Yeah. He's only 22, so he's played once with the under 21s. I mean, look, the goal record's decent there. 32 games last year between 2 of them loan deals, 11 goals. I mean, that's,
that's not bad.
I won't go any Luka on this, but that's 1 in every 3, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Are you sure it's not 1 in every game? One every game, but in fairness, Martin, it's not like he was at top clubs in both them leagues that you're getting chance after chance. A lot of them is him probably have to run in behind and get on the end of stuff. And I know Accrington Stanley just stayed up. I can't remember where exactly Northampton finished, but they weren't competing to even finish top 6. I don't know where they finished in the end, to be honest. Can't remember. But so it's actually it's a very impressive goal return he's had. And he's the type of player that you can see will develop long term over a while. I know he was at Galway United before he went to Burnley, so they probably would have they're going to benefit a bit out of this as well, which is always good. Yeah, so he's a player that probably Wigan will try and make a bit of cash on in a couple of years' time. Whether I don't know if they'll ever get to the stage where they're back competing to be a good championship club, or even get back in championship, because I know they're League One now. But he'll be a player that will help them probably get up the table a bit and maybe compete for playoffs this season. And he will himself, it'll be massive for his future. Right. And just on Martin, I forgot about one. I know it just came through to me there. Peter Rourke, who actually he broke the story yesterday about Costello going to Wigan, is reporting that the player that I've been saying a bit about towards the end of the season, Milanique Ali, who was at Luton, who was scoring all the goals at the end of the season, was almost kept him up pretty much single-handedly with his goals. He's saying that Sheffield United, Leicester, and Middlesbrough are iron moves for Ali, which would be massive for Ali if he could get back in the Championship, just for his Ireland perspectives, because he had that very, we'd say, touching story last season of going from National League to the Championship in the space of 12 months, and then obviously the relegation wouldn't have been great. And like, in fairness, it wasn't to his own fault. They paid 1.5 million for him, which was a bargain from Exeter. And I do think clubs will be sniffing around him because he's shown last season at the end of the Championship how good a player he is and how much potential he has. He's still very young. He's a player that has huge. If he gets back in the Championship this season, Martin, he has a great chance of breaking into the Ireland squad. League One will make it almost impossible. But if he gets into the Championship, and I say he's probably eyeing up this World Cup and getting in for the qualifiers, because we need more wingers, and the more wingers we have, the better. And if he can get a move to a Sheffield United or Leicester, Middlesbrough, they're three top Championship clubs, and that will put him right into the picture.
Yep. I mean, there we go. Conor summed it up there, showing us what fantastically talented players we have, especially underage Ireland, but even lads who are, they have got that carrot in front of them now, haven't they? The World Cup qualifiers. Heimer has experimented a little bit. We will have injury problems. That's football. We know that. But I think we're in a good place now for these games coming forward. So I would urge people to get behind the boys in green, get your season tickets or the free game package, of course. And obviously we've got these 3 exciting trips away as well. So we're going to be covering that all here.
But Martin, don't forget, this is the worst Ireland squad ever.
It's not the worst Ireland squad ever, though, is it? I mean, that might be Martin O'Neill and people like that who are very negative about Irish football. Martin O'Neill said we never had the players and, moaned about Robbie Keane coming to the end of his career and still wouldn't play people who scored goals.
Yeah.
But, that was it.
Martin, if anyone agrees with me, we should make a petition. Someone could go make a petition and I'll share it all over social media to get Martin O'Neill taken off television. Or radio, wherever you want them taken off.
Our special guests for next week, exclusively announced here on the show. But no, before we go, I just want to say thank you to everybody who supported our David Ford live event a few weeks ago. Brilliant. And we do have some books available still if you'd like to purchase one of those, and proceeds go to charity, and we can post them over to Ireland as well. So we'll put a link in the description on our socials for that. But a fantastic book. I was speaking to someone actually today who brought the book that night, and they said, in their view, it's one of the best football books they've ever read because it's just written by him. It's very, very honest, actually brutally honest, to be honest, about so many parts of his life and the challenges he faced day before. But he was brilliant company. I know the lads spoke about it on the last episode as well of the pod. So thanks for your support of that. We raised a lot of money for charity as well. We're just reconciling all that at the moment, but it was over 500 quid. So £500, which is about 550 odd euro, I suppose. But brilliant. That's towards our charity there with Risk London. And we do appreciate the Raw Faithful support of that event. And we've got lots and lots of things planned again, especially coming up to these qualifiers. And we want you with us. So this is where you can catch up with all the latest news in Irish football and Lansdowne Raw. Conor, have a great day, evening, whatever you're off to doing now, checking out where all these transfer news are. Our very own Mr. Sky Sports himself there, finger on the pulse. And we'll catch up with you soon. And just finally, best of wishes to the girls in green last night, tonight, taking on America. Come on, you girls in green.